Hyperbole kills meaning faster than silence ever could. A lot of abundance, 100 times multiplication of what exactly? Your current state, your baseline, your zero? Because multiplying zero still equals zero, regardless of how dramatic the multiplier sounds. And if you're starting from scarcity consciousness, from belief in lack, from fundamental conviction that there's not enough, multiplying that by 100 just gives you 100 times more sophisticated scarcity thinking. But that's not sexy, doesn't activate, doesn't create urgency or excitement or sense that something massive is imminent. So you get 100x, you get 100-fold increase, you get mathematical impossibility presented as spiritual inevitability. You get numbers that sound impressive without meaning anything concrete, specific, or remotely actionable. And you believe it, want to believe it, need to believe it. Because the alternative, that abundance isn't coming, that multiplication isn't happening, that you're responsible for creating your own increase through actual work rather than magical thinking that's uncomfortable. That requires effort. That puts responsibility on you instead of on cosmic forces arranging 100-fold multiplication while you wait passively for it to arrive. So you choose the fantasy, choose the 100x, choose to believe that abundance operates on multiplication principles, that wanting something badly enough makes it materialize in exponentially increased quantities, that the universe is mathematical equation where desire plus belief equals 100 times whatever you're currently experiencing. Except it doesn't work that way. Never has, never will. And deep down, you know this. You've believed these promises before, waited for the multiplication, prepared for the abundance, stayed ready for 100-fold increase, and it didn't come, or it came in ways you didn't recognize because you were expecting literal 100 times more money, more love, more success, rather than 100 small increments of growth that actually constitute real transformation. Rib cage expanding and contracting in rhythm that feels slightly off. Someone is ready to die in your arms. Melodrama dressed as devotion. Death imagery masquerading as ultimate proof of love. Because apparently the pinnacle of human connection is someone being willing to expire in your embrace, someone choosing your arms as their final resting place, someone making you the last thing they experience before consciousness ends. Romantic or deeply disturbing? Because readiness to die in someone's arms isn't actually about love, it's about dependence, about making another person responsible for your sense of safety, your ability to let go, your willingness to surrender to mortality. It's about needing someone else's presence to feel okay with your own ending. And if someone genuinely needs you that much, if their sense of peace genuinely depends on your availability, if their ability to face death requires your arms, that's not beautiful. That's burden. That's unhealthy attachment disguised as deep connection. That's enmeshment pretending to be intimacy. Because people who are whole, who are secure, who have done their internal work around mortality and meaning and what makes life worth living, they don't need to die in anyone's arms. They'd prefer company, sure. They'd appreciate presence, but they're not dependent on it. They're not making another person's availability the condition of their own peace. And people who are whole, who are secure, who have their own lives and boundaries and sense of self separate from relationships, they don't want the responsibility of being someone's required presence at death, don't want the pressure of being someone's final earthly experience, don't want to carry the weight of someone else's inability to face mortality without them. So, ready to die in your arms isn't the romantic declaration it pretends to be. It's warning sign, it's indication of dependence, it's suggestion that whoever this person is, they've made you responsible for things you shouldn't be responsible for, including their ability to surrender peacefully to their own ending. And you want that? You want someone that attached, that dependent, that convinced you're essential to their ability to face fundamental human experience? You want the pressure of being someone's everything to the point where they can't even die peacefully without you? Or do you just want to feel important, want to matter so much to someone that they'd choose your arms for their final moments? Want the validation of being that essential, that cherished, that necessary to another human's sense of safety and peace? Because those are different things, very different. And confusing them leads to relationships built on dependency rather than choice, on need rather than desire, on enmeshment rather than genuine intimacy. Knuckles white from grip I don't remember establishing. What? That opening exclamation, that shock, that disbelief that's meant to be your reaction to these promises. What? As in, you can't believe your good fortune, can't believe the abundance and devotion heading your way, can't believe you're about to experience hundredfold multiplication and someone's ultimate willingness to be vulnerable with you. But what if your actual reaction isn't disbelief at good fortune? What if it's disbelief at absurdity? What if it's what, as in, what does this even mean? What are these claims based on? What evidence supports belief that abundance multiplies by 100 or that anyone's ready to die in anyone else's arms? What if appropriate response to this title isn't excited anticipation but skeptical questioning? Not, oh my God, I can't wait, but what are you actually saying underneath the hyperbole and melodrama? Because stripped of exaggeration, stripped of dramatic language, stripped of mathematical multipliers and death imagery, what's this title claiming? That you're about to experience increase in something that someone feels deeply connected to you or wants to be, that change is possible, that relationships exist, that life continues. And those things, those modest, realistic, actual things, they don't need hyperbole, don't require hundredfold multiplication, don't demand death imagery to be meaningful. They're meaningful as they are in their ordinary, non exaggerated form. But ordinary doesn't activate, doesn't create urgency, doesn't make you feel special enough, chosen enough, on the verge of something extraordinary enough. So you get 100x, you get ready to die in your arms. You get language designed to overwhelm your critical thinking and activate your hunger for validation, for significance, for proof that you matter enormously, rather than in the quiet, sustainable, actually meaningful ways you actually matter. And that hunger, that need for extraordinary validation rather than ordinary appreciation, that's what titles like this exploit. That's what they're designed to trigger, not your wisdom, not your discernment, not your ability to recognize healthy connection versus dependent dysfunction, just your hunger, your need, your desperation to believe you're about to experience something so massive, so transformative, so extraordinary that it justifies all the waiting, all the hoping, all the consuming of content that promises transformation without requiring you to transform anything yourself. Diaphragm feels like it's forgotten its job creating weird, shallow breathing. 100x abundance. Let's sit with the mathematics. If you currently have $10, 100 times, that is $1,000. Meaningful increase? Sure, but not life changing for most people. Not abundance that restructures reality, just more money. Useful money, but not transformative wealth. If you currently have $1,000, 100 times, that is 100,000. Now we're talking about amount that could create options, could provide cushion, could enable choices, but is it abundance? Or is it just financial stability, middle class security, enough to not worry constantly, but not enough to never work again? If you currently have 100,000, 100 times that is 10 million. Okay, now we're in territory that most people would call abundance, would call wealth, would recognize as life-changing amount. But how many people reading this currently have $100,000? And if you don't, if you're starting from a much smaller number, then 100x doesn't actually get you to abundance, just gets you to slightly better version of where you currently are. And if we're not talking about money, if abundance means something else, relationships, opportunities, joy, peace, then what does 100x even mean? 100 times more joy than what? How do you measure joy in units that can be multiplied? How do you quantify peace such that 100 times multiplication makes sense mathematically? You can't, because these aren't mathematical concepts. These aren't things that multiply in neat hundredfold increments. These are qualitative experiences that deepen, expand, become more consistent, but not through multiplication, through cultivation, through practice, through choices made repeatedly over time that gradually shift your baseline experience of life. But cultivation isn't dramatic. Practice isn't exciting. Repeated choices over time don't create sense of imminent, massive change. So you get 100x instead. You get multiplication language applied to experiences that don't actually multiply. You get mathematical metaphor that sounds impressive but means nothing when examined closely. And you believe it anyway. Because believing in 100x abundance feels better than accepting that real increase comes through incremental improvement, that actual transformation happens through consistent small changes rather than sudden massive multiplication, that abundance is built slowly through sustainable practices rather than arriving suddenly through cosmic mathematical operations. Solar plexus area feeling like it's trying to collapse inward towards spine. Someone is ready to die in your arms. Who is this someone? Title doesn't say. Could be anyone. Could be specific person you're hoping reconnects with you. Could be stranger you haven't met yet. Could be future version of someone you already know. Could be metaphorical, someone representing connection generally. That vagueness matters because it lets you project, lets you fill in blank with whoever you want it to be, lets you make this promise relevant to your specific situation by deciding who the someone is and what their readiness to die in your arms represents. But that projection, that filling in blanks yourself, that making vague promise specific through your own hopes and imagination, that's not prediction. That's not insight. That's not information. That's just you consuming vague content and making it mean what you need it to mean to feel seen, to feel special, to feel like something extraordinary is coming. And meanwhile, the actual people in your life, the real connections available to you, the genuine opportunities for intimacy that don't require death imagery to be meaningful, you might be missing those, might be so focused on someone being ready to die in your arms that you're not noticing someone who's ready to live with you, ready to show up for ordinary moments, ready to build something sustainable rather than perform dramatic declaration of ultimate devotion. Because healthy love isn't about dying in each other's arms, it's about living together, separately, in ways that respect autonomy while creating connection, in ways that honor individual wholeness while building shared life, in ways that don't require death imagery or ultimate sacrifice to prove depth of feeling. Healthy love is quieter than that, more sustainable than that, more interested in decades of showing up than in dramatic final moments, more invested in how we live together than in how we might die together. But quiet doesn't sell, sustainable doesn't activate, healthy doesn't create urgency. So you get ready to die in your arms. You get ultimate devotion imagery. You get death as proof of love rather than life as practice of love. And you want that? Or do you want the validation of mattering enough to someone that they'd make you their final earthly experience? Because again, those are different things. And one is actual relationship, and other is fantasy that feels good to imagine but would be problematic to experience. Throat feeling raw, like I've been screaming into void that doesn't echo back. What 100x abundance? Someone ready to die in your arms. 3 separate promises, 3 different activation points, 3 ways of triggering different hungers, different needs, different desperations for external validation and transformation. What activates shock, disbelief, urgency, um, makes you pay attention, makes you think something extraordinary is being revealed, makes you receptive to whatever promises follow because you're already activated by that initial exclamation. 100x abundance activates financial insecurity, desire for ease, hope that wealth can arrive through multiplication rather than accumulation, makes you want to believe in magical increase, makes you receptive to idea that abundance operates on principles you don't understand but can access through belief, preparation, alignment. Someone ready to die in your arms activates hunger for significance, for mattering enormously to someone, for being chosen so completely that you become essential to another person's ability to face their own mortality. Makes you want to believe you're that important. Makes you receptive to idea that dramatic devotion is coming your way. And together these 3 elements create perfect storm of activation, create state where critical thinking shuts down and hope takes over, create receptivity to believing that yes, all of this is coming, all of this is possible, All of this is what's heading your way if you just stay ready, stay open, stay believing. But what if none of it's coming? What if 100x abundance is just hyperbole? What if nobody's ready to die in your arms because that's not healthy relationship dynamic anyway? What if the only thing actually happening is you consuming content designed to activate you, to keep you hoping, to maintain your attention through promises that sound extraordinary but mean nothing specific? What if appropriate response to this title isn't preparation or excitement or belief? What if appropriate response is recognizing manipulation when you see it, rejecting dramatic promises that prey on your insecurities and hungers, choosing to build your own abundance through actual work rather than waiting for multiplication, choosing to create healthy connections based on mutual respect rather than hoping for dependent devotion disguised as ultimate love? What if the real message isn't in what's being promised, but in what's being exploited? Your fear of scarcity, your hunger for validation, your desire to matter so much to someone that death imagery becomes romantic rather than concerning. And what if recognizing that exploitation, seeing it clearly, rejecting it consciously, what if that's actually more empowering than believing the promises? What if choosing reality over fantasy, sustainable growth over dramatic multiplication, healthy connection over dependent devotion? What if that creates more actual abundance, more genuine significance, more real love than waiting for 100-fold increase and someone's ultimate surrender ever could? Entire skeletal structure feeling like it's vibrating at frequency just below what's consciously perceptible. So here's what I won't do. Won't confirm 100-fold multiplication is imminent. Won't promise someone's ready to die in your arms. Won't validate these dramatic claims designed to activate hunger for external validation and transformation while keeping you passive, waiting, consuming, rather than creating. What I will say is simpler, less dramatic, more real. You can create abundance, not 100-fold multiplication, but genuine, sustainable increase through choices, through work, through consistent practice of behaviors that generate value. You can build it slowly, incrementally, through actual effort rather than magical belief. You can matter to people, not through being essential to their death, but through showing up for their life, through consistent presence, through genuine care that respects autonomy while creating connection. You can be important without being indispensable, can be cherished without being needed so desperately that someone can't even die peacefully without you. You can experience transformation not through external events delivering dramatic change, but through internal shifts that gradually restructure how you relate to everything, through choosing differently, through believing differently, through acting from new awareness consistently over time until new behaviors become new normal. And that's less exciting than 100-fold abundance and dying in your arms. That's less dramatic, less immediately gratifying, less designed to make you feel special right now in this moment. But it's real, it's sustainable, it's actually achievable through your own agency rather than dependent on cosmic forces or other people's dramatic declarations. It's empowering rather than passive. It's something you create rather than something you wait for. Which do you prefer? Drama or reality? Fantasy or sustainable growth? Waiting for hundredfold multiplication or building actual increase? Hoping someone's ready to die in your arms or creating connections based on healthy mutual respect and autonomy? Your choice. Both are available, but only one is real. Only one puts you in control. Only one creates lasting change rather than temporary activation that fades as soon as you finish consuming the content promising transformation. Choose wisely or don't. Keep choosing drama. Keep believing in 100x. Keep hoping for someone so dependent they need your arms to die peacefully. Keep consuming promises that activate without delivering. Either way, you'll get exactly what you choose, either empowered reality or comforting fantasy, either sustainable growth or dramatic promises, either actual abundance or belief in multiplication that never quite materializes. And that choice, that's the only thing that's actually 100x anything. Your choice, multiplied by consistent action over time, creates outcomes 100 times more significant than passive belief in magical multiplication ever could. Whole body settling into configuration that feels more honest, even if less comfortable. Truth isn't found in others' stories, it's discovered in your own silence. No predictions, just presence. Stay curious, stay awake.